We see Richard Diebenkorn's Ocean Park, number 22 from 1969. During the 1950s, Diebenkorn was one of the leading artists working in abstract expressionism on the West Coast. In 1966, Diebenkorn accepted a teaching position at UCLA and settled in Santa Monica, California. From his new studio in the vicinity of Ocean Park Beach, he would create more than 140 paintings between 1967 and 1988. When he left Santa Monica for Healdsburg, north of San Francisco, the Ocean Park paintings were very large, those that could fit through the front door of his studio, while the canvas corners were all within or slightly beyond arm's reach. He painted directly on the canvas without the use of studies and broadly brushed pigments and glazes to create the effects of layering. Diebenkorn considered Matisse and Mondrian to be important sources for him. Diebenkorn developed a soft architectural scaffolding of off-white linear geometric lines to separate his misty, light-filled shapes of color that seem to represent sky, water, sand, and soil. These shifting planes of color of variable density also created light tensions along the surface of the painting. He based these particular colors and shapes on his experiences in Ocean Park in Southern California, creating not only the textures but also the feelings associated, cool feelings associated with the sea and the land in this particular location. Robert Delaney's Homage to Blériot, 1914. Here we see the turbulence of air as propellers cut through it. We see in the distance the Eiffel Tower in the upper right. This is the celebration of the first flight across the English Channel by the Frenchman Blériot. We also see discs or wheels which show color movement into depth and across the surface. Delaunay worked within the Cubist world. Everything is divided up into Cubist geometric shapes. Color is released from its association to nature so that the kind of motion, circular in this case, of new bicycle wheels can be perceived, and plane propellers, this type of motion of the modern world. At the center of the wheels, there are more complementary colors. There's a stronger sense of rhythm as well. So just as with the Eiffel Tower, the Homage to Blériot shows this sense of futurism, or this term Orphism, O-R-P-H-I-S-M, that Delaunay would use, in which there is no up or there is no down. That is to say, we are thrown within this within this natural world of movement, directly involved in the experience without having a reference to the ground or to the distance. This painting by Frank Stella, entitled Singerle Variation No. 1 from 1968, is part of his famous Protractor series that was begun in 1967. Stella said that he was influenced by early medieval Irish manuscripts with their interlacing forms and colors that he initially studied at Princeton University when he was a student. These are large, wall-sized paintings that function both architecturally and decoratively, with the space of a museum, gallery, or a large room in a house. They were planned as a group of 93 pictures. There were 31 different canvas formats. There were 3 different designs for each of the 31 formats. These designs included number 1, interlace, which is seen here, number 2, rainbow pattern, and number 3, there was a fan pattern. Most of the titles are names of ancient cities in Asia Minor. Some of the names are gateways to famous cities of the region. In the protractor series, the design was made first by means of the stylus point of a protractor with its overlapping circular forms. The framing elements were painted first, then the interior canvas strips and solid colors were completed. This is an early example of the shaped canvas. Duran's London Bridge from 1906. We talked about this painting a little earlier. This was an important group of paintings for Duran, along with Matisse, as part of the In this painting by Andre Duran, called London Bridge from 1906, we see important principles of the new group of Fauve artists. The Fauves are the wild beasts, who exhibited their work at the Fall Salon of 1906. In this particular painting, we can see this strong sense of cropping of the picture, so we capture one slice of life. From an unstable perspective, you can see the picture sort of tilted along a plane. And when we look into the picture, we can see these colors, split complementaries. In other words, we see colors that are almost opposite on the color wheel, along with colors that are triadic, equally distant from one another, giving a strong sense of freshness and newness, a sense of unity to the color harmonies of the composition. All of these things giving the picture a sense of vitality, a sense of visual interest that keeps bringing us back. Vasily Kandinsky's Study for Composition No. 2 from 1910. This particular painting was part of a group of paintings that were referred to as compositions, produced between 1910 and 13. Kandinsky said that they were expressions of a slowly formed inner feeling, tested and worked over repeatedly. Reason, consciousness, and purpose play an overwhelming part. There is nothing of calculation, only feeling, he said. This painting shows the strong influence of Bavarian and Russian folk art, with their simple shapes, bright colors, and bold outlines. The image of the prince or knight on horseback comes from both fairy tales and religious history paintings. St. George on horseback for the religious paintings. Kandinsky and Franz Marc used this medieval image in the logo for their Blue Reiter, their Blau Reiter expressionist movement in painting. This particular painting also shows the early influence of strong, weighty, and chromatic colors, that is, the blues, reds, and yellow-oranges, which detach themselves from forms to assert their rhythm or emphasis in different parts of the painting. Here we also see shifting planes in the landscape appearing to clash with one another. There is conflict and at the same time a sense of resolution in the deep blue color, blue denoting spirituality for Kandinsky. We see this in the upper left of the painting. Kandinsky at that time was also interested in an apocalyptic vision of the end of the world. And this was a time of increasing political conflict. Europe was moving toward World War I. These very large canvases of bright color are examples of drip painting, where the artist takes a piece of stretched, unprimed canvas and actually holds it at an angle and drips paint down. So we can see that the paint runs. You can control the angle of drip so the paint actually can drip downward into the side. It can spread out in a fan-like motion. And so we see these large shapes and forms that are actually formed by color, by strong colors uh, that actually drip down, the painting. These are very this is very thin paint, thin acrylic paint. And you can see how the colors seem to blend toward the center, and then they seem to separate as they fan outward. Morris Louis felt that these large canvases of mixed color uh, were very spontaneous. In other words, we see that the colors all seem to dance in front of the large canvas spontaneously, almost like they're flickering. And he also felt that the canvas was sublime because these forms were very large and monumental. They seemed to spread out, cover a very large surface. So they were visually interesting, and at the same time they seemed to be expressive of strong feelings, colors that could be translated into the viewer's psyche in terms of strong moods or feelings.